hats backwards, doing a little home run derby, hitting golf balls off the Oregonian building, and it got rained out again. And then we had to play the state championship in Roseburg at Doc Stewart Stadium against another school from our own division. So it's like where we did our districts. And we went down and just on a Monday, we played a state championship on Monday at 5:00, and it just kind of took the whole luster out of it, right? It's just like it was another game at Doc Stewart's field, and it just wasn't the same. So I think it's important for the kids to be able to do that.
Yep. The one thing about Legion is, if you go play over here at Warrior Field and you put every fan in town comes to the game, the place is full, and it's a pretty cool atmosphere. When Urington was playing, you could bring every cow, dog, chicken, every person in Urington,
right?
And you're only going to fill up 5 or 6 sections of that stadium, and the rest of the place is going to be empty. And so, that part of it, you could bring the whole town, and it doesn't look like there's a big crowd. But actually, in our game, it got pretty loud in there. I mean, it got loud.
Did they condense the seating like everybody was right behind each bench?
Yeah, it was pretty much, you had sideline seats. There was no end zone seats. There was no upper level. They shut all that stuff off. And so everyone was pretty much in that lower bowl, goal line to goal line. And but it got pretty loud.
Nice.
And and I'm assuming when Bishop Gorman was playing, their whole side was just filled up. Reno didn't bring a great crowd, but the Vegas school, Meadows, I think they brought their whole school to the game. I'm still definitely a home field advantage to the south because they could bring people.
Sure.
But for the kids, one team dressed in the Raiders locker room, the other dressed in the assistant. We dressed in the referee's locker room, and
which was like Elko High School's football locker room.
No.
No.
When you dress at Elko and Carlin, when you dress at some of these other places, you're dressing in a broom closet, you're dressing in a classroom, someplace just wherever.
Right.
They had leather couches, they had TVs all around the place, they had 2 or 3 different rooms in there because they have female officials in the NFL now. So the females had their own room. They had like a room for to come in and you could get like a massage or whatever. They had cookers in there or warmers for food. They had refrigerators. You had your own lockers, like big lockers in a different room, and you had your own individual shower stalls. I mean, it was Cadillac.
So did you guys when you called a penalty? So first of all, were you the head referee? Or
yes, I was. Like the white hat referee.
Yeah, right. The referee.
And, that was the other cool part, too. This is the thing, you're standing out there. I'm standing on the shield, the Raiders, 50-yard line, and we bring the,
So they did have Raiders logos on the synthetic field.
Oh, yeah. It said Raiders in the end zones and everything. There was nothing different about that. And so we're looking at the stadium like, well, we got to, in high school, the referee, and you're doing the coin toss, you always face the scoreboard.
Right.
They got scoreboards on all 4 sides of the field here. So we just picked an end. It's like, okay, that's going to be the end. That's going to be the end. So I'll face that direction. And I'm standing out there on the shield. I got my team on the sidelines getting ready to bring captains out. And all of a sudden they're like, hold on. And all of these people show up with cameras and television cameras and everything. And the next thing I know, I got 2 Raider cheerleaders on each side of me. And they're doing a photo op. They're like, this is all about the Raiders and the fan, communities. So we're doing a photo op with the Raider cheerleaders, and so we get that all done, and then we rock the captains out, and it's just like the Super Bowl. They got the camera there, they got they're listening to you do the coin toss, the whole 9 yards. And so we.
Are you over the PA at this time?
Not at this time.
Okay.
And but I did do the test, and so we do the whole thing. They're filming it, and then Nevada One Nevada Credit Union. They're one of the big sponsors for the NIAA. They have their person flip the coin, and so she does it. And before we went out, I was like, okay, you got to learn how to flip a coin.
Yeah.
I was like, the thing
you got to be prepared.
It's got to do a couple revolutions. Oh yeah, so she's it's falling off her finger, and I was like, okay, let's try it this way. And so we practiced a few times. So we get out on the field, and I hand her my coin. And she goes to flip it, and it falls off her finger, and it just does like a frisbee. It goes flying across the field, but it hits the ground and turns over a couple times, and I'm like, good enough. It turned over. Right. And so, Urington wins the toss anyway. But just to be standing out there on that shield, and, at the 50-yard line, you got all the cameras around you, and, we get everything taken care of. But then, you're just like, man, I want a penalty. I need a penalty.
Right. Absolutely.
We go about halfway through the first quarter and finally I have a false start or something like that, so boom, I'm live. And I flip the microphone on, and before the game starts, the guy from the stadium comes in. He wires you up just like the NFL referee does. And so I got all these battery packs on the back of me. I got the switch and everything.
You made it to the big time.
Made it to the
big
big
time.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
So, boom. I got, false start on whoever. But, I could hear my voice just echoing all in stereo.
Yeah,
in stereo. Yeah, echoing across the field. I was like, this is pretty cool.
So, do you have, because one of the things too, when you're in a stadium, they do an echo on purpose because the sound carries a lot more. Do you have an earpiece in to hear yourself?
No.
Because that's really hard to do when you're like, when
Right.
I'm talking right now and whatever I just said comes in 2 seconds later or a second later, whatever
And
it
that
is.
part of it was a challenge because, you'd click it and then you'd make your announcement and it was about it was a little bit off. But
You're talking and you're trying to listen to yourself at the same time. It's a weird
because
deal.
That's what we're doing right now.
Yes.
Like we can hear ourselves talking, but if we were saying, because Danny, that happened to Danny one time
When we first started.
with the headphones, he would be talking until we figured it out on how to do it. It is, and I've done it too. It happens to you at the high school also. If you ever get on the microphones up there, you could get up there and announce, hey, everyone, thanks for joining us at Warrior Field. You don't hear it until afterwards. So when you're reading a speech or something like that, you have to get used to it.
Right, and that's after I made my first announcement. Actually, I looked at the other guys. Did you hear me? I was like, oh yeah, I heard you clear as day. And so I'm like, okay. So then I just told myself, and see, the stadium, the stadium's mic. We don't have hardly any of them here in Nevada. Wyoming, every school has a stadium mic, and so I was used to talking on them. And so I just like, okay, just do it like you always do. Just make your announcement, and you just pick one spot in that stadium because. In Allegiant Field, the Crows, like where the scorekeepers and everything are, it's at the very top of the stadium. So you can.
You ain't yelling up to them, hey!
Yeah, you can be looking straight up like that. So I just picked there's some attorney firm. So I just stared right at their logo all day long. Whenever I make my announcement, I just stare right at this attorney's firm sign and make my announcement because the cameras are right above it. And I just talk normal, and just let her flow. And that was different though, because like you said, you don't hear it, but at the same time you can hear it, but I'm concentrating on what I'm trying to say. At the same time, you're wanting to hear, can people hear me? Or am I just talking to myself out here in the middle of this big old stadium? And
Right.
Sure as hell they could hear me plain as day.
Yeah. I'm surprised they don't do an earpiece because I would need one. Like Danny knows how much I am with headphones just because I've been DJing for so long that headphones
Right.
are always like my thing.
If you watch the NFL guys, they have, the referee he's like got all kinds of communication things because they're talking amongst themselves. They have like a different controller where they can go to their PA system because they're on a closed circuit.
Right.
Like our little radios that we have, you guys can sit in the stands and listen to us talk
Right.
if you know what channel we're on.
Right.
But those guys are on a closed circuit. They own that wave or whatever it is. So nobody from the outside can listen to them talk. So they're flipping back and forth talking to each other. And they all have earpieces in.
Right.
And, they didn't tool us up quite that.
Yeah,
Well, it was a 2A state football. Really, at the grand scheme of things, this was more for show for the Raiders to try to basically, as they should. As a professional organization coming into Nevada, that's smart. Business-wise, you want to get the whole state behind you, and that's a great way to do it.
And that was their big purpose too. Is they flat out told us the Raiders want the state championship games every year from here on out. But they they got to work with the NFL and the Mountain West Conference to open that stadium up for that weekend.
All right. So before we kind of move on to anything else, we are first of all, happy Thanksgiving for tomorrow. NFL tomorrow. Speaking of the Raiders. Raiders in Dallas.
Yeah, I got the Cowboys all day long.
But they got to play a little bit better than they did this past week. But yeah, I'm definitely taking the Cowboys. Is that game in Las Vegas or is it?
Dallas is always at home.
Always at home. Okay.
Yeah, Dallas
them
and
in Detroit,
Detroit,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, them in Detroit. So So then the first game of the day, we have got the Bears Lions, right? Bears Lions. Did the Lions get their first win this week, Alden? I mean, the Bears are a shit show right now.
It is,
so.
and they got the Red Rockets starting for them at quarterback, Andy Dalton.
Oh yeah, Dalton's coming back. Yeah,
and so they're going to win sometime.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, and
why not go into Ford Field or whatever they call it up in Detroit now and knock them off on their marquee game.
Right. Their game of the year now. This has become so. I don't know. My mom's a Bears fan. I mean, I'll probably be cheering for the Bears, but yeah, the Lions got to win at some point. I mean, they've been one of the few teams to not win a game, but yeah, I think they're due. Matt Nagy is done.
He's on the hot seat.
Yeah, hot seat. His shit's set outside already. Like, if you don't get fired before the game, very likely he's going to get fired after the game. Win, lose, or draw, doesn't matter. The quarterback situation, just a tough deal. So I'll be rooting for the Bears, but if I were to go bet, just because, well, first of all, I'm terrible at betting, but I think the payoff is a little bit better. I'd go put $20 on the Lions to win.
All right, we have. I'm going for the Raiders just because of Nevada.
Lions Bears
and Lions Bears. That one's. I'll go for the Bears on that one. That's for sure.
What do you got?
I'll take the Lions.
Take the Lions.
Yep,
absolutely.
Let's go with the dogs.
So you got the Raiders. We both got the Cowboys. You got the Bears. We both got the Lions.
And then you got the Bills and the Saints.
Oh, I'm going Bills all day long. With my boy
Dude,
Josh
what
Allen.
is the matter with Buffalo? Man, 3 weeks ago, that team was walking to the Super Bowl. A lot of people had predicted. But, I mean, now, look, you speak Josh Allen. Josh Allen's from your neck of the woods, isn't he?
He's a Wyoming Cowboy. He came from California, but he's a Wyoming Cowboy.
But he's a Wyoming Cowboy, absolutely. So, yeah, I like what Josh Allen does. I like where the Bills are at. I don't even know who's playing quarterback for the Saints this week. I mean, are they back?
It's Tyson Hill.
Taysom Hill? Is he finally? Yeah. So I mean, and that game in Buffalo.
And Kamara's out. That was ruled out today.
Okay, so yeah, I'm gonna have to go with the Bills.
Yep, the Bill. I think that game's in New Orleans actually.
That's going to be tough. I mean, that gives New Orleans a little. I mean, and New Orleans is tough to beat in the Superdome, but I think I'll take the Bills. What do you got, Pedro?
I'm going Saints on that one.
Just opposite day, or
opposite day.
Yeah,
opposite day.
The man in the middle is opposite on all three calls.
Yeah. So we'll see where we're at. Maybe I should bet some money on this. So.
Yeah, we might want to. So hey, let's roll back to some local stuff because really we brought you on here to talk about sports and whatnot, but officiating. Northeastern Nevada Official Association, NENOA, you are the assigner for basketball and football. Talk a little bit about the need for officials right now, what it takes to become an official, and how it's not really that hard of a thing to do if you have the interest in the game.
It's not hard at all. That's the easiest part about the whole deal is you just jump onto the NIAA website. There's a tab that talks about officials. First of all, talk to somebody local. Hit one of us up. We can walk you through the whole process. I mean, even wrestling. I don't know anything about wrestling, but I can get you signed up and I can get you in touch with the right people to become a wrestling official or volleyball or soccer. I don't do any of those sports. But we need them all.
Now, the AD at Oco High School, sorry to interrupt you, but it used to be the assigner for wrestling, didn't he?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay, I know he used to referee wrestling.
Yeah, so. What the hell is it? Kelly. Does that sound
No,
right?
that's Wittermo. That's the old wrestling coach. But the new AD, I forget his name. But anyway, go ahead and continue.
Right. So, get in touch with one of us or just go onto the NIAA. When you sign up, you got to it walks you kind of through the whole process. You just got to remember to click on the Northeast Nevada if you live inside of our little circle.
Which is really the biggest circle in the state.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. Those guys in Vegas and Reno bitch about having to drive to Fernley. Like the Reno guys, we got to go all the way up to Fernley. I'm like, fuck, I gotta go all the way to goddamn Ely.
Right? Yeah. We went Super League. Just real quick, we went over to play baseball, and Elko played against Spring Creek in Farmington, and the umpires were bitching because they had to come from Provo, and it was like, well, we traveled 4 hours to play each other. What are you talking about?
Right. And so, but we need officials. It's this mode. Basketball, we're sitting okay as far as numbers, but quality or the levels. We don't if we don't have enough people to give Elko quality people like the top flight of guys every single night. We don't have that capability, and we need people, and it's easy to do. We meet every 2 weeks. We go over film. We talk about things, and it's a simple process. It really is, and I'll walk you through it. I'll take you under my wing, so to say.
Sure.
And we'll go do some freshman games.
I was gonna say, go out and do a couple PAL basketball games.
Yep.
I know Alden and I had talked about it. So after I had had a little medical deal going on, Alden was like, "Well, let's come out and run with the PAL game just to kind of get your legs in." And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I'd say it's really out there getting your mechanics down, getting a feel for the floor, and the 3-man mechanic. So I mean, if you're interested in doing basketball, I mean it's a 3-man mechanic, which is pretty friendly on the legs, right?
Most definitely. It prolonged the careers of a lot of people.
I was gonna say, if you've watched an Elko High School basketball game in the last 10 years and you've seen the officials, you'll understand that youth isn't necessarily a prerequisite.
No. And God bless Elko for doing that for us. A lot of the schools for the sub-varsity stuff will not pay for the 3rd man. And so Elko County will do that. And so that helps us immensely, because then we can put that older generation, they can do the freshman game, the JV game. Then we can bring in fresh legs for the 2 varsity games.
Okay, so my question, so if you were to go, say we were going to go work Friday night, so are you going to have to do, how is that split up? So do you need 6 officials for that evening? Because there's boys and girls playing, there's JV varsity, and sometimes a lot of times freshmen. So how does that work?
What we do when Elko and Spring Creek, and Elko with basketball, the bad part about it is Elko and Spring Creek are home at the same time every single time.
Oh, really? Because of the way they travel,
the way
right?
they
Because
travel.
they'll go over the hills.
Yes.
Okay.
And so what we'll do is we'll need 6 people at Elko High School at the 3 o'clock game, and 6 people out at Spring Creek for the 3 o'clock game, because you're playing in 2 different gyms. That's usually the freshman game, boys and girls.
So they play. I didn't realize they played in 2 gyms.
Yep.
Okay.
And then at 4:30 is your JV games, and so again you got boys and girls both going on at the same time. So you need usually the people just stay in the same gym for the JV and the freshmen and the JVs.
Okay.
If possible, sometimes we intermingle, but for the most part, you got 6 people at Elko High School doing the freshmen and the JVs. They do 1 game in the old gym, 2 games in the old gym, and then 2 games over in Centennial. And then on Spring Creek, you do the games at the high school and over at the middle school. And so, we got the games going on that way. And then the varsity crews, we usually bring them in, and you'll do both the girls' game and the boys' game.
So and they're not at the same time. So they're in Centennial.
Yeah,
You'll have the girls.
6 o'clock for the girls and 7:30 for the boys.
So that's a lot of officials you need. And so if I were to sign up and go run or whatever, and you assign me to Elko, am I basically going to stay in Centennial Gym for 3 games in a row, 4 games in a row?
You'll never do more than 3 during the regular season. Usually on any given night when Elko and Spring Creek are at home, we need 9 officials at Elko, 9 officials out at Spring Creek. And then you got Wells playing at home, West Wendover, Jackpot gets involved in the basketball.
Sure.
What Ely, so you're trying to, then you got crews got to go there. And then you usually send in 6 people to those places because the boys and girls are playing. So you'll send a crew over to do the JV boys and the varsity boys, or maybe you will mix and match.
Sure.
But you send in 6 people to wherever, to Battle Mountain to and think hopefully Lowry's not at home at the same time.
Right.
They'll have 3 games.
Sure.
And so that's where we get into trouble is when all the schools are playing at home.
Right.
And we just don't have enough people to cover.
And so if you don't, you're bringing in officials from a different area, and that gets charged to the school, or is that when you talk about rescheduling?
Football,
games?
we have that capability to bring people in from Reno. Basketball, we don't, and so we just got a guy or a gal doing more games than they probably should be doing in the evening.
Yeah.
And the worst part about it is the best game of the night, or the best 2 games, or the last 2 games.
Right.
So you've already ran this person for 3 hours.
Well, yeah, and it must we'll just Alden does some slow pitch softball for us, and he's overqualified for it, but thankfully he comes out there and does it. And it just like you said, I mean, you get the first 3 games of the night, it'll be C League, B League, women's lower game, and then the nightcap is like the top 2 A League games. Right. Now you gotta pick it up and get going again after you've been lulled to sleep for the past 3.5
Pretty
hours.
much. And it's that happens with our guys too. Or you have blowouts. Teams are just so unbalanced, and you're just like, oh my land. You're just coasting through the game, and then all of a sudden, you got the ball buster, and it's time to ramp it up.
Right.
And sometimes people struggle grabbing that next gear to get it rolling,
Right.
and that's part of the mental thing, and and that's where your better officials accelerate is they control their mind. Okay, I can pound my way through this freshman game.
Right.
Keep them on their feet. Don't let nobody get killed.
Right.
And but at the same time, in the back of your mind is like, man, I got Elko Spring Creek boys or Elko Fallon coming up
Sure.
at the nightcap. So I got to be ready to roll for that one.
Right.
And
Right.
the bad part about it is you start cutting corners. Because it's just freshmen. He's at that end of the court. We'll let him ref that end of the floor.
Right.
And because we don't have the people.
And yeah, you create bad habits at that point.
Yeah.
Sometimes, unfortunately, you get lulled into it. So yeah,
Wrestling, we have 2 officials in our area. 2
for the area.
for the whole. In Winnemucca, Elko, the whole area. We have 2 officials that live inside, and Kelly's one of them. And I think we have a new guy this year, so we don't know what we have.
right. Because Jim Kerr retired. Because Jim Kerr was a long time wrestling official.
Yep.
And
So
glad to see
for the Spring Creek has their big wrestling tournament out there, or match, whatever you guys call them. And
the Kiwanis,
yes. And so they're they're having to bring guys in from Boise, Reno, Salt Lake, Vegas, wherever they can find it. That's all fine and dandy, but a lot of times you're getting the bottom end of their pool,
right? Because they have stuff at home.
Whatever the big high schools in Boise, the better officials are going to go take care of the 5A in Idaho rather than going and doing Spring Creek down in Nevada,
Right.
And so volleyball, I know there's a lot of matches this year that have one official on the floor, and normally there's 2, one down and one up.
Okay.
And so a lot of the smaller schools and stuff like that, they only have one official. And so, you always have the people helping you with the lines. But the person up in the chair, they pretty much have to take care of all the substitutions and do all that type of stuff that you do in volleyball. And soccer, I think they survived in soccer. They were all right this year. But, we need officials. And it's not just here. It's everywhere. I'm reading on the internet with some of these places. Vegas told me this year all their high school games will be 2-man because they don't have enough people.
Right.
And so, so you got Bishop Gorman playing Liberty or Centennial. There's only going to be 2 people on that game, and you need 3.
Right.
Carlin against Eureka, you can get away with 2 there, especially at Carlin because it's a short
gym.
It's a short gym. But
exactly.
When Elko plays Fallons, the Fallons of the world, or Elko plays Spring Creek, you need 3 people out there, and Vegas isn't going to have it this year. They're down to 2.
So what would you if somebody wants to officiate?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Pedro.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to ask. If somebody wants to get into,
Yes.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to officiate, what would you say their background needs to be? Would you recommend them just going out and doing some youth games just to kind of get the feel for it, and then jump into high school?
The biggest thing is, would be the best thing is, did you play the game growing up?
Right.
Because then you have a feel for the game. I can read the rule book and go out and try to ref a basketball game, but playing the game is like, he got bumped, but knowing that he still made the layup, you create that advantage, disadvantage type stuff. If you've played the game, you understand all that type of stuff. if you've that's probably the biggest thing is if you have a background in that sport is you'd probably make a decent official because you've played the game before.
And if you like watching the game also, because like you said, it's best seats in the house.
It is. You know, football is a little bit different than all the other sports because in football, it's an uncatchable ball. You know, they hear all the NFL rules. It's like, that's only on, you tell a coach, even coaches to this day, like, coach, that's only a rule on Sunday.
Right.
And,
right.
You know, but if you play the game, you understand the game, and, that's probably the best thing about it is if you have any interest in the game, you know the rules. I mean, if you watch college basketball all night, all winter long, you understand the game, you know the rules, and it's pretty easy sitting on your couch. But
right.
I'm the best. I've never missed a call sitting on the couch.
Yeah, absolutely not. Me neither.
And,
Me neither.
Once you start running,
I've never missed a call on the field. Afterwards, I might admit to it, but
right.
I've never admitted to missing a call on the field.
Right. And I'm the best referee there ever was after the fact. And but
exactly.
It's if you want to get into it, just give us a holler, and we'll work you. We're not going to put you in the cooker right away. I mean, even though we need you, we're like, hey, you're gonna go down and do a Battle Mountain Lovelock JV game.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit, since we have such a big district to cover. So talk a little bit about the travel and the compensation that goes along with NIAA officiating, because people are going to want to get paid. They want to know what it's going to take. So we are in an outlying area. So if I got to travel to Austin, or I've never been to Austin. It's a ways away.
Yep.
So I got to go do an Austin-Carlin game. I mean, what does the NENOA do for you?
You're paid from where you live. I mean, town-wise. We're not going to pay you from, White Ridge.
Right.
You get paid from Elko. And so, Spring Creek gets paid from Elko. And you get paid, the driver gets, this year? It's a federal rate, 55 cents a mile to and from. And the rider, if you're a rider in the car, you get 20-some cents a mile to and from. So you're compensated for your mileage.
I got a shotgun, Pedro. You can drive. You can take the other 35 cents.
Yeah, okay. We'll have
all for the ride home.
Yes, exactly. And,
we'll have Jamie take us. We'll just sit in the
No,
back
you can
seat.
just drive. We'll just pay you the mileage. We'll give you the whole 55 cents or 75 cents, and we'll go from there.
Going to Austin, that's
90 miles south of Battle Mountain.
South of Battle Mountain.
South,
So
yeah.
that doesn't include getting to Battle
Getting to
Mountain.
Highway 50.
So
and that's part of the fun too. In the old world where I came from, when the game was just the reason for you to go to that town,
Right.
and then you had fun afterwards, and that's where the camaraderie. You measure distance in 6-packs and things like that. Nowadays with the whole DUIs and it's a different world we're in right now, so it's different. But we still stop and we'll stop at a restaurant, we'll stop at a bar or whatever and have fun for a little bit and then head for the house.
Well, we've even went out. Sorry, Pedro, I didn't mean to jump on top of you there, but we've even traveled out of town, and that is, me and Yaki and Travis and Sean and Damien. I always like to throw out, we're just making memories, man. We're just making memories. It really is, and it becomes more than just the game. When we go do 12 games in a day, at a softball tournament, that was whatever. But it was just, what did you see? Who did you get to interact with? You umpired a team from Florida or whatever. And then the afterthought with your officials getting together and talking about, oh, hey, this jackass I had, or can you believe this guy didn't even know what he was doing? And then that camaraderie between officials. I think a lot of that's been lost on this newer generation, which is why we're suffering for officials.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, even Jamie, even though he's not an official, he came to help me DJ a wedding out in Wells, and it's basically the same concept. I had told the people that were hosting the wedding, I said, hey, we're going to drive out to Wells. We're going to get you guys need to get us a hotel room for 2 nights. And Jamie and I went out there, and we just hung out, had a great time, got to go grab some good food. Do that, and I imagine it's the exact same thing when it comes to to umpiring.
You know where all the good places to go are, and you try to set yourself up with good people to go with. There's a lot of times we'll come home. Who won the game? you have to think about it. Yeah, just a minute, I got to check Max Preps real quick. I don't remember who won the game. Because we went and had fun. We did something. We came back to Elko, whatever we do, and that's the other part of the whole thing. Everyone thinks we really care who wins. I could care less who wins, because whether Battle Mountain wins or West Wendover wins, the check's still the same.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter, and that's one thing that I've always. I mean, when I was at Worlds, I was doing a game. I believe it was Team Texas against Florida, and because I had umpired this Texas team a few times, kind of had a little rapport with the team, right? I mean, you've already had them on the game a couple times. You're trying to make it go, and I got accused of cheating. Like, hey, yeah, you're from. I'm like, man, I've never even been to Texas, man. Like, no, I could care less who wins this game. I absolutely not. And when you're going out on the road, so talk to me a little bit about assigning, because you do the assigning. So if Pedro and I want to go do basketball, Pedro, I'm hooking you up here, dude. Well, I'll get you for baseball season. Anyway, so if we wanted to kind of be a tandem, is that stick people
early is tough because you don't know who's good, who's bad, what's going to happen. But as the season goes, if you got 4-0 playing a team that's 0-4, you're like, okay, we got a team that's probably going to have an off-balance game here. This is where we can send some of our lesser officials to get experience. But what I try to do with every game is I want one person on that game that if the train jumps off the tracks, we got one person in that gym that can get that thing back up onto the tracks and keep the train from crashing. And so that's the first thing I always look for. And in basketball, I call them, you look for a guy that's a referee. I mean, the other two guys are U99s, umpire 99 and umpire 99.
Right.
Those are field fillers. We can make those things happen all day long. It's just like with the softball. When you got games coming up, you want a person that's on that game that can kind of keep the thing from blowing up and turning it into a shit show.
Right.
And so that's what I do when we're, and Tyler McCabe and Weston Hendricks, they both help me out with basketball. Football is me and Bill Casanelli. And that's what we try to do. We try to get some harmony with our crews. It's like, okay, here's the dude. We can put him on this game, and if shit goes south in a hurry, he can reel this thing back and get it back on the tracks. And then you kind of look for that, like the number 2 guy, and then the number 3 guy. And so you just that's what you're trying to find a harmony. We got people that have personalities that just don't get along.
Sure.
And so you don't ever want to put two of those people together. And so you try to. And personality comes in, and egos comes into play too. So you got to look at you try to figure all this stuff out, right? Yeah. And so I mean, it's like a big recipe. You got to put it all together. Right. And and coaches, you get feedback from schools, you get feedback from the commissioners. And they don't want to see this guy anymore.
Because they actually get like one veto per coach.
They get 2 vetoes.
They get 2 vetoes.
So it's 2. Okay.
So if a certain coach doesn't want to see a certain official in Nevada, you won't see him at home or on the road or postseason. So I mean, when you put a delete on them, they're deleted.
Wow.
And they could delete you because you wear a green sweatshirt. They don't have to.
Or you had some extracurricular activities with said wife or something.
What? That's
really. I mean, really, they can veto somebody for any reason.
That's taking it extreme, but sure.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, they could just say, he wears whatever. He looks at my wife funny, or he wears a green sweatshirt. I don't want him in my gym.
Yeah, I never had to deal with that. I was a head JV coach. Could I have done that as a JV coach?
You'd have to have
JV
the varsity coach.
Your head coach would have to do it, but actually, what has to happen is the coach has to go to they have to go to the school administrator. The school administrator is actually the one that submits the form to the NIAA, and then NIAA sends it back out to us and says, Danny Story cannot do any Elko varsity or JV baseball games, and because of
whatever,
we don't like him.
And so So have you had that really put a strain on what you have you had experienced? Has anybody vetoed any of your officials since you've been up here?
Oh yeah, every year, and every sport.
Has it happened to you?
No.
Oh, really?
Because he's that good.
Well,
he's a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer.
No, I'm just saying, like, you would think, knowing coaches.
I take that back. My second or third year, I had a coach up in Wyoming at KC, home of Chris Ledoux. He vetoed me for basketball season
Chris
because
boy,
he thought I was too young.
No particular reason, just because you were too young.
Yeah. I mean, I was only.
You didn't make a shitty call.
I was a couple of years older than all the players and stuff.
Right.
You know, I was too young to be ref in varsity basketball.
You know what? Honestly, I had that comment because I don't think I look young, but about 5 years ago, when we were doing the when I helped you with the Little League tournament.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yes.
When we did that, I had one of the I can't remember the coaches were. I mean, they were assholes to begin with.
I think they were from Yarrington, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think so. But they were like, you don't even know what you're talking about. Because they thought I was like, 20 years old or something. And I was probably like 35.
So let me interject and let me set the scene for you here. So Pedro knows baseball, and Pedro is a good catcher, and Pedro knows how to call balls and strikes, and he's a good umpire. Pedro does not prefer the official umpiring garb. When Pedro goes out to umpire, it's like 1947 all again.
With the butterfly?
He's got the pad. Like and he's not real tall in stature. So when Pedro gets behind this pad, squat down behind the catcher, all you see is feet and face mask. That's it.
Well, see, the thing is, since I was a catcher, anytime I'm behind the plate, I get in there because I want to see that zone. So I don't just like stand up and kind of look. I'm in there and I can tell if it's a ball or strike. Especially being a catcher, you know what to look for.
So a catcher would make a great baseball umpire.
Yeah. So exactly. So what?
And he hides behind a pad.
Oh hell yeah, that pad is bad. I just hold that thing and I'm just holding it, and everyone looks like I'm stupid. I'm on Naked Gun, when he's holding that.
I haven't seen the butterfly in years.
I have it at my house. I kept it. They were gonna throw it away in Oklahoma League, and I was like, "Oh no, I need that.
Do not throw that thing away. That is mine. And if not, we're ordering. I don't even know if they make those anymore. But yeah,
maybe.
So that was kind of one of the comments that I got from one of the coaches. I don't think he understood that I was a head high school coach and coached high school baseball for over 10 years. So I was like, dude, I know you think that maybe you think I look like I'm 10 years old, but no, trust me, I know what I'm doing, dude.
Yeah. And I battled that in my younger years. I mean, I was 18. I started when I was 18. I was doing junior college when I was 21. And back then, I was young, had one chin, skinny. I could run.
So I know early on when I started officiating, I had a pretty short leash. I ejected my first adult when I was 14 years old. I think it was because of how I was taught, just to not take no shit. You can't take no shit, you're going to get some shit. So over the years, I'm sure you've tossed an individual or two. I know for a fact you've tossed at least one, maybe two out of Elko softball. Deserved it. Jared, you deserved it. Do you have any really exciting ejection stories? I mean,
I don't.
No?
Did somebody steal a base?
Or no, never had anything like that. In Wyoming, we don't have high school baseball. We play American Legion. And so the Legion was a little bit of a renegade league because you didn't have any, like a commission or anybody like that. Like if you get kicked out in high school, you got to report to NIAA and you're out for a couple games. Legion, it was just self-governed. And so, if you got kicked out on Thursday night, you're coaching on Friday night.
Right.
And I think probably the quickest ejection I ever probably have had was ball 4 on the 4th pitch of the game. I threw the coach out from Miles City, Montana. And because first pitch, boom, probably borderline ball, and then this guy starts barking at me. So like, all right.
Was it a 3-0 count?
Well, it started out, 0-0, so of course. The first two, they were off. And the second two were close, but he's barking at me the whole time. And the second, the fourth one was close, but I'm tired of it. I was like, we're not doing this tonight.
Right.
And so, I threw him to the bus on the fourth pitch of the game. That's probably the big ejection story. In high school sports, coaches, I've thrown out 2 coaches in 34 years.
See, with high school, I always said I never wanted to get tossed. I actually had to take over one time because the coach got tossed. But I always said if I go out, I'm going out like with a bang. I'm taking the base.
Going out like Jesse James. Huh?
I'm throwing the I'm throwing
the Gatorade container and all that.
Don't you remember the what is it, the rosin bag or whatever? The guy that
the guy threw the grenade, yeah.
He threw it
when he crawled down and kicked the base.
No, I've had nothing like that. Like this, ejections aren't my deal. And to me, here's how I look at ejections. If you have a lot of ejections, you're probably doing something wrong.
Absolutely.
I've always, honestly, the coach that when he got tossed, it was for good. He was defending the safety of one of our players, and that, to me, that's justifiable. To me, it was that's what I would do. I always told my kids, I have your guys' back if it's justifiable.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get tossed just to be an asshole, nothing like that. But if you have an umpire that's being a complete asshole to you, then I'll go out there and I'm going to defend you.
Well, you got to defend your players, absolutely. And as an official, like you were saying earlier about your assigning, right? You're making sure you have that one guy who doesn't let it go off the rails. And it's not necessarily the guy, like I said, when I was younger, I used to eject people. But as I've gotten older, I haven't gotten an opportunity to eject anybody because you nip that shit in the bud right off the bat, right? As soon as that starts, you're like, no, we ain't having any of this. It's the officials that let it go and let it keep festering and festering. And then, because it usually always starts on one side. And then it's that one side, right? And if you don't shut them up, all of a sudden something happens on this side. Now it's a two-way street. Now you're trying to fight 2 teams.
Yep.
I mean, I say that figuratively.
That's part of that game management type thing is if you let it fast, you let it boil. And and that's where a good official, whether it be referee, umpire, whatever, you can sense that. It's like, hey, this son bitch is starting to go crazy. You see me
tighten it up. Yeah, I got taught that all the time. And this,
I think actually that same team, since I look like a little kid behind the plate, they're at the end. All the fans were. This is at Ernie Home, and all the fans were just being from that side being assholes. Just that was a strike, or that wasn't a strike, or just yelling and yelling and yelling. And finally, I took off my mask and I pointed at them and I said, "That's going to stop, or all you guys are going to leave." Like, that was it. And they kind of looked at me like, and it's like, nope. You guys are you're more. If I make a bad call, I'll own up to it. But you're not going to be sitting there every call
critiquing every single ball strike.
Right. And I think just to critique you a little bit, you never address the crowd. You go to a coach, you go to an administrator, and let them handle.
No, their coach would have gotten tossed.
Well, yeah,
their coach was an asshole.
But that's for those of you, I know we're talking a lot of war stories, but for anybody that wants to go out and actually officiate, it's not that bad. We're talking about some extreme type of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And with Alden assigning, he makes sure you're in a comfortable atmosphere, so you're not just thrown to the wolves, and that's why. Even if you think you're ready to do an Elko Spring Creek, Elko Fallon is a great example because those are some amazing basketball games. They're going to make sure you get out there, you get your feet wet, and it's for the best, and you get your mechanics down and you get going solid, and so they're not going to leave you out. You're not the assigner for baseball, right? No. Ackerman is still the assigner for baseball.
Puccinelli.
Oh, Puccinelli's going to. Oh, okay, all right. Okay.
Well, and one of the things too, that being said, we're talking about all these stories, but honestly, it was great. I loved getting back out there. I complained about it because I couldn't move my legs for probably like 3 days.
Yeah, he thought he was going to do one game. Yeah, not if I'm assigning you.
It's like it was 100 degrees outside, and but it was so. Especially since I haven't coached since I want to say 2014. It was great to get back on the field. It really was.
You hear the pop of the mitt, and you're just it's baseball again. And I took a hiatus from baseball for a long time because my boys were growing up, so I'm coaching, doing the little league thing. Same with umpiring softball. And we moved down here. My kids are grown, and now we've got high school baseball. So there's no baseball in the summertime, and so that's what.
Which is different because that's when American Legion plays.
Yeah, they play
during the summer.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so I looked at the baseball roster, and I was like, we need baseball umpires. I'm like, all right, I'll be the cold guy, stiff that goes out there. And and I tell coaches, like, you know what, I'm here for one reason, so we can play baseball today. Right. Do I know the rule book back and forth? I do not. And if I'm missing something or doing something wrong, help me out here.
Sure.
A balk, I can get the big ones. Right. But some guy twitches.
Twitch, exactly.
That's probably not we're playing on.
Balks aren't even a rule anymore. Have you watched some of these major league pitchers?
That's the first thing you got to do. The first thing you got to do is you got to shut the TV off.
Right, exactly. Because like you said, you only call that on Sunday when you're talking about football.
Yeah.
Baseball.
I'm watching those relief pitchers in the World Series. They're twitching and twirling. And
and I was like, you should have heard.
He pretty much went past the 10-second rule. I mean, just by his motion.
Yes. Just everything.
Pedro's texting me. He's like, "Isn't that a balk?" And I'm like, "Well, not with runners not on the base.
Yeah.
It's not."
There was no, they do it with runners on the base. I remember when this. All these weird motions, and I get it because that's a part that you teach pitchers is to get into your rhythm, and when they get into it, then okay. But we were watching, I was rooming with Galen when we were coaching together, and we were in the same room, we were watching baseball, and one of the pitchers was doing what they do now, and he was like yelling at the TV, saying, "That's a fucking balk," and I was like,
no,
he was
not anymore.
He was
like
pissed.
It's like James Harden in the step back.
Yeah,
in high school, that's
whole
a
new
travel.
rule. Absolutely, at every other level, that's a travel.
Not there.
There is so much as far as I see some of these guys' motion, and I'm just like, I don't know. Apparently, there's no box in the pros anymore because they.
Every now and then you'll see them. It's like. I didn't even see that.
It's like calling traveling in the NBA. Yeah. You don't ever see that being called. Yeah. So let's shift it just a little bit to college football. I'm assuming you love some college football.
Yes.
I know you're a Wyoming guy. So we've got the college football playoffs kind of starting to shake. We got rivalry weekend coming up. One of the best weekends in college football as opposed to the bowl season. We've got some big matchups out there. Oregon Ducks and the Beavers. Are going to be playing. It is the Civil War. I will never say it's anything other than the Civil War. They can call it the Platypus Cup or whatever they want to, but that's a big game. Obviously, the game is the game of the week. Ohio State, Michigan. We'll get into that a little bit. Wyoming. Looking at Wyoming, I just obviously I don't follow Wyoming, so I had to breeze myself out. It looks like when they won big, and when they lost, they barely lost. So where's Wyoming football season? Do they have a postseason? And I'm curious, who is Wyoming's rival? Because they're playing Hawaii this week, and that can't be their rival, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Wyoming's football season has been a disappointment for us. We were probably the most experienced team in Division I, and Wyoming doesn't lose this whole transfer deal.
Sure.
They don't lose anybody. Everyone pretty much stays there.
If they want to go to Wyoming, they're all in for the 4 years.
Yeah.
Copy.
And, our offensive coordinator left, went to Montana State, so we've got a new offensive coordinator. We started out okay. We squeaked by Montana State, of course. Of course, when you got the old coach, he knows all how to beat you.
It's like Gruden beating the Raiders in the Super Bowl, right?
Yep. And but it's been a disappointment. Last week we finally played the football game that we've been waiting for all year long. we took Utah State.
Yeah, you beat Cooper Jones and Utah State. You just knocked them off the field, and that was at Utah.
Yeah,
right?
we took them to the woodshed.
Yeah.
And, the first time I haven't gone to Logan in years to watch them play because I was like, oh, this thing can be pretty. And they take them to the woodshed. We're playing Hawaii this week. That should be a gimme. Should be, but you never know. In Laramie, so I'm hoping for a snowstorm. And,
Absolutely, as you should, at least below freezing temperature.
Our arch rival is Colorado State. And,
okay.
They're only 90 miles apart, and it sucks to be a CSU Ram.
Yeah.
And we play for the boot. It's a Vietnam.
I love that because the trophy was the next thing I was going to ask about.
It's the boot.
It's the boot.
And so the boot, the boot loves to live in Laramie, and
Yeah.
so we love it in Laramie too. And it's been in Laramie for 8 out of the last 9 years, I believe now. And so we beat them up pretty good this year. And so
And you play them early in the season?
no, it was 2 weeks ago. I believe.
Okay, a couple weeks ago you beat them 31-17 at home.
Yep.
And is that a traveling trophy that sticks with the school?
The ROTC, what they do is before the game starts, the ROTC, wherever the game is being played, they take the boot and there's they march it.
Is this an actual boot or like the boots that are around town?
It's not quite that big.
Okay.
It's a boot. It's a trophy. It's a regular, like an old Army guy, a Vietnam veteran's boot.
Okay.
And they bronzed it.
Okay.
And so this boot is on a trophy, and the ROTC will move the boot back and forth to whatever stadium it's in. The Wyoming National ROTC will hand it off to the CSU ROTC. They'll march it down to the stadium. Whoever owns the boot at the time, their ROTC will guard the boot while it's inside the stadium.
So like Major Payne. They're moving Major
Yep.
Payne, dude.
Oh yeah, no. Well, I mean,
Okay, so they guard the boot. So okay,
And,
continue.
and so once the game is over, it's as soon as the game is over, like when the referee pretty much no more plays, it's a mad rat rush to the boot, and it's just like who was I see do it the other day? They race to the trophy and they're holding up the trophy. Like Utah State and Wyoming, they play for a rifle,
right?
and it's a trophy game too. And so Utah State had the rifle because they beat us last year. Or the last time we played, they chickened out a couple years ago with COVID. They didn't want to come play us in Laramie, and so.
But they have a trophy too.
Yeah, it's a rifle,
Okay.
and so Wyoming won the game. So they raced over and they grabbed the rifle and they were packing. You got a bunch of football players packing this old rifle around, and but Colorado State is our big rival, and if we go 1-10. We just have to beat Colorado State.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. So before I ask you about the big games of the week, best rivalry trophy in college football. How old? Actually, first of all, how old is your guys' boot? How long have they been doing that?
Over 100 years.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it's been there a long time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's one of them big long. It's a long time one.
Okay. So over 100. So one or the.
Well, I take that back. The rivalry is over 100 years. The boot, obviously Vietnam was in the 60s, 70s, so the boot did come into play. But the game itself has been played for, I want to say right about 100 years. I mean, I have a book sitting on my shelf about the whole thing from clear through the rivalry.
So is that your favorite trophy in
Well, of course it is.
Okay.
And we have to own the boot.
You have to own the boot.
And like when Oregon and Oregon State play, what are you guys playing for? A platypus?
Really, no. There is the platypus trophy, which I mean, after the Civil War, the game itself is one of the oldest rivalry in college football. But yeah, it's literally the platypus cup is what they're playing.
Gotcha.
And now because it's not the Civil War, they're looking for what to call it, and they don't know what to call it. And it's that's there's only 40 miles that separates Corvallis and Eugene, and on any given year, it doesn't matter if Oregon's ranked number 2 or whatever. It's going to be a good game. So it's going to be a good game this week. Reeser Stadium, it sits down in. I think this year's game is in Eugene though, but that's rivalry games are where it's at. So we'll move to this weekend. I think the game is the game. How do you see Ohio State, Michigan playing out?
Ohio State all the way. Harbaugh has. I don't think he has beat Ohio State yet.
No, he hasn't.
Yeah.
He hasn't done. He hasn't done much in big games since he's been
Right.
at Michigan.
I just think Ohio State. Michigan, they just don't have what it takes and I'm going with Ohio State all the way.
So college football playoff. Who's the Final Four?
Well, right now we have, what do we got? We got Georgia, Cincinnati. Cincinnati's the 4 seed right now. Ohio State and Alabama.
Yes.
So
Georgia and Alabama are going to have to play.
Yeah.
In the SEC title game.
Correct.
So regardless,
so one of them probably is going to get eliminated there,
unless Georgia loses.
Well, that's
unless Georgia loses. If Alabama loses, I don't think they belong. I mean, I think they're one of the best college football teams in the country, absolutely. But I think with the criteria they've got out there, I think winning your conference is key. I think you should have to win your conference.
Who's sitting 5? Is it Notre
Dame? 5
Dame?
is Michigan.
Michigan.
So that's going to handle itself.
And then Notre Dame is right after
Notre Dame is number 6. Oklahoma State. So if there's another big game this weekend, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma Bedlam. I mean that's going to be a big football game. Oklahoma, you never know what to think of that that Cardell Williams or because that's kind of like Williams, but yeah, no, that's a 10-7 game. You got Baylor right there, which is another Big 12 school, and then Ole Miss still sitting in the top 10.
The thing with and I hate to say this, is since the BCS came out, when has a school west of Mississippi made a difference? And it sucks.
Yeah, it does.
The first thing I always look at is the Pac-12. They always get their token team in there, but they just go lay an egg.
And they always beat up on each other. It's the Pac-12's fault. Like the Pac-12 will always have a school that's looking good, and then like Oregon, they'll go out and lose to a Stanford, and they'll beat Ohio State at home, which we had never seen anything like that. We finally got some recognition, and then they just step on their toes. So.
Yeah. Or they go to Salt Lake City and just get a knot put up.
I knew that was. By the way, I said that a few weeks prior to that game happening. I did say that my biggest fear was going to Salt Lake City and playing Utah, and I mean we would have had to have potentially played them twice anyways, because we would have had to have beat them in the Pac-12 title game, which would have been in San Francisco. But yeah, going to Salt Lake City, playing Utah, Utah's defense is super good. And Oregon's, I've said from the beginning, a lot of our conversations with Pete Cavender, I said that, hey, I don't think Oregon's a top 5 team. And it's cool that we're there and all, but I don't think Oregon was a top 5 team. So I think that, consolation prize, hopefully we can get the Rose Bowl. That's not a bad consolation prize.
Not bad at all. 17, 18 million bucks.
Yeah, exactly.
Win or lose.
And playing in the granddaddy of them all.
Right.
So.
All right, so lots of football going on this weekend, and lots going on tomorrow with football in the NFL. Thanksgiving, always fun to watch some football, and of course enjoy some great food and time with family. So we kind of wanted to jump in and ask you what. Unless you have
go ahead. No. Go ahead. Alden and I could do this all weekend long.
Oh, so, I know. That's why I kind of.
You go ahead and jump in and take us to our next little segment.
Let's get at it. But Thanksgiving, what are you looking forward to? I already know what you're probably going to say, but I want to hear.
We're staying home. Elko's our home now. We moved from Wyoming. We have nobody home in Wyoming anymore. My family's all passed on. My wife's family lives down in Georgia, and with the whole weirdness of the world, we don't want to get on a plane and get down there and not be able to get home,
right.
Or with all the weirdness stuff goes on. We just traveling during the holidays sucks anyway. On flying across America, and so we're just going to stay home. We're going to be here in Elko all weekend long, and just relax. My Brock's coming over tomorrow. And we got 2 kids at home. We're just going to kick back and enjoy turkey gurt, watch some football.
I'm gonna ask a quick question. Sorry, Pedro, because I meant to ask this earlier. So your son officiates now. So how is that? Because I know my son is kind of coming up. Me and him just went and did a softball tournament together. But doing high school is a little bit different. I know there was kind of a funny story about Brock's first flag that he threw in a football game. How is it refereeing with your son? Tell us about that flag that he threw, and how does the assigning, does it give you a lot of shit when you send him to some place that may not be where he wants to
go? He doesn't have the fire that I had.
Sure.
But he didn't come up with a group of guys that I came up with.
It's a different generation.
It's a different generation.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And, I'm glad he's doing it. He's got I keep telling him, he's like, you got to get your nose in the rule book. don't just go off what you think you know. And but he's doing fine. He's coming along real well. And he's got to get a haircut. And
I love that. He tells me about it all the time. No, tell me to get a haircut.
Yeah. And if you want to be a referee, you got to look like a referee.
Sure.
And I struggle with the new generation, but it is what it is. And but no, he's doing fine. And football, he had a good year this year. He didn't cause any problems. He's still scared to throw his flag, and when he does throw one, it's ugly sometimes.
Well, tell me about the first flag that he threw.
I didn't see the first flag.
Was it not the first flag? Because the flag because he tells me the story about the flag that he threw, and you gave him some shit while you guys were out.